We're going to call the special meeting of Gardner City Council to order and invite those in attendance to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. We've got one item this evening, which is presentation of the recommended fiscal year 2017-2018 budget and discussion. Laura Gorley, good evening.
So tonight I'm going to provide a recap of the development of the fiscal year 2017 and 18 budget. The theme of this year's budget is emerging from vision to transformation. When developing the 2017 budget, we were on the move and blazing new trails to new opportunities for diversified development of the tax base, for transportation improvements, including pedestrian trails, sidewalks, and the street pavement management program, for expanding special events to enhance the quality of life, for civic engagement with the new website and advisory boards, and for new opportunities for our high-performance workforce. In 2017, we were on the brink of transformation. As you will soon hear, and as evidenced by the visible construction and service delivery that we see all throughout our community, we're past the on the brink threshold. The city is emerging from vision to transformation. It all starts with this wheel, which illustrates the process of the best practice of priority-based budgeting. And although the governing body is familiar with it for the benefit of our citizens, I'll review it. Priority-based budgeting is a multi-year results-based planning process for achieving identified goals prioritized by the governing body. It provides a framework that aligns resources, money, and staff to deliver what the community values most, and provides an achievement metric to measure progress and accountability. There are two key components of the process. The first is stakeholder input, and the last step, after you follow around the wheel, is to adjust as needed for continuous process improvement. And in step 8, we all ask every year, if we didn't hit the goals, what happened? Was it something we could control, or do we just need to adjust our assumption and initiatives? This year I'll review what is now a 5-year process. This is our 5th trip around this planning wheel. And we've continually built on previous year's achievements to move the city from vision to the transformation that we strategically planned and worked very hard to achieve. And it also is a review of the work our citizens have received for their tax dollars. The first step in this 5-year process was to implement best practices to strategically prepare for growth. Priority-based budgeting was the first to be implemented. And before that could happen, community stakeholder input was gathered to assist the governing body to identify your vision or policy for the city. The governing body has identified 4 strategic goals that guide your vision and your budget financing decisions: promoting economic development, improve the quality of life, improve fiscal stewardship, and improve infrastructure and asset management. Each year, short-term initiatives are developed to support those long-term goals. Completion of these initiatives is the accountability metric for results. Our 5-year journey started with the acknowledgement that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So, visionary documents were created as you began planning the roadmap to our transformation. To promote economic development, we developed the comprehensive plan, the economic development strategy, and a growth management strategy. The comprehensive plan is the blueprint for how the city develops. The economic development strategy is a companion document to the comp plan, and it's focused on 7 goals for attracting and sustaining economic development. The growth management strategy was developed to identify areas for growth and prioritize those areas best suited for short-term, mid-term, and long-term annexation. Implementation tools were developed for each of those visionary plans. The city's land development code was revised to implement the comprehensive plan. A comprehensive economic development incentive policy was developed to implement the economic development strategy, and it details the incentives the city will consider for facilitating development projects, including tax abatements and the leveraging of our city utilities. This year, a small business incentive program was added to encourage entrepreneurial and expansion efforts by our local businesses. The program facilitates projects by providing funding assistance to improve access to roads and utilities. Communication and engagement was enhanced with the development community, citizens, and other stakeholders. The new website is not only a component of rebranding, but is the face of the city that includes all those previously mentioned visionary documents and development policies, making it a one-stop shop for developers. We've invested in rebranding, including a new logo and tagline, and increased marketing. We formed partnerships for business recruitment and retention. We benefit from KCADC's nationally renowned expertise in facilitating economic development, and KCADC markets the whole region as able to reach 85% of the U.S. population in 2 days or less. The city also works collaboratively with the Southwest EDC and the Gardner-Edgerton Chamber of Commerce for business recruitment, assistance, and retention. They're currently developing a community profile, including a guide, maps, and professional photos and videos that will more extensively promote Gardner. The community profile is anticipated to be completed this fall. The IT network, which is the backbone of the city services and communication, was rehabilitated, as well as the audiovisual equipment here in the council chambers. To enhance customer service, a voice response payment system was implemented to provide another 24/7 convenience to pay utility bills. Citizen engagement opportunities were enhanced through the creation of advisory committees for streets, park and rec, ADA, economic development, utilities, airport, and police. The city also conducts 2 citizens academies, Gardner U, which is a broad-based view of city services, and there's also a separate citizens police academy. Assessments were conducted on the city's streets and pedestrian trails, leading to voter approval of a sales tax to pay for a multi-year project to keep good roads good and rehabilitate streets, sidewalks, pedestrian trails, and bridges. This is year 2 of the street improvements, and the sidewalks and pedestrian trails and bridge replacements are all underway. Assessments were conducted for the city's electric, water, and wastewater utilities to identify short-term capital improvements and provide a base for the follow-up master plan updates that were completed for water and wastewater. The transportation master plan update was updated. The population was completed to revise outdated estimates, and sub-area plans were developed for the prime undeveloped land around the city's I-35 interchanges. Using all of that updated information, a capital improvement element, or CIE, is being developed and will soon be presented to the governing body, because long-range capital planning enables fiscally responsible allocation of resources. The CIE is a long-term schedule of capital projects to guide investment in infrastructure to serve infill areas of the city, as well as to extend infrastructure to the I-35 interchanges, because strategic development of the interchange areas is essential to securing the city's future. In 2013, the governing body toured several of the city's aging facilities. Following their assessment, $500,000 renovation was completed on the Aquatic Center, which anchors the northwest corner of our future downtown district. And after reviewing the condition of the police facility, the governing body approved a space needs study and purchased land in preparation for future city facilities, including the future Justice Center, to house the police department and municipal court. Voters responded to the governing body's commitment and preparation to improve the city's assets and facilities and approved the Justice Center on August 1st. Investment in the city's transportation network is also important to facilitating economic development. Center Street, otherwise known as Gardner Road, is a major arterial roadway to the city's southern I-35 interchange at 191st and Gardner Road. Rehabilitation of Center Street from I-35 to Grand is underway to extend its useful life and avoid the cost of complete reconstruction. CARS funds will be used to fund half the construction cost, and the project is scheduled for completion in October. Realignment of 191st and Gardner Road interchange will address current traffic safety issues and support development of the prime land area surrounding the interchange. The selection of an engineering firm to design the project is anticipated by September. An engineering firm was selected to design the reconstruction of 175th and Waverly to Poplar, and construction will begin in 2018. This project will eliminate flooding and promote development in that area. In order to improve accessibility for all citizens, ADA-compliant ramps were installed in downtown sidewalks, the Gardner Senior Center was renovated, and a self-evaluation of accessibility for selected city programs, services, and facilities was conducted. The ADA Advisory Committee prioritized the resulting projects, leading to the governing body's approval of $110,000 in improvements to be phased over 2017 and 2018. A community access survey was also conducted with the Wichita State University Hugo Wall School of Public Affairs, indicating that future resources should be focused on access to public buildings and parking, crosswalks, and sidewalks. Grant-dependent initiatives include development of the West Fork Kill Creek Trail to provide connectivity to Celebration Park. Johnson County Parks and Recreation agreed to provide just over $80,000 in grant funding to reimburse the city to extend the trail from the high school 1/2 mile north to the area near Quail Meadows. Additional grant funding will be pursued for the second phase of the trail project in 2018. Successful cities have vibrant downtowns and pedestrian-friendly community gathering areas that create a sense of place. In late 2016, after the budget, Mark's Sustainable Places grant funding was awarded for the Main Street Corridor project. An action plan is being developed to create that downtown sense of place, anchored by the Aquatic Center on the north and the Gardner Senior Center on the south. Work on this project is well underway, including an area tour, market research, discussion sessions, a 2-day planning charrette resulting in several visual design concepts and development scenarios for key areas of the corridor. And there is currently a survey in progress to gather broader input regarding the design scenarios. The plan is scheduled for adoption in early 2018. What happened? Here we go. Excuse me. Investments were made to recruit, retain, and engage employees to enhance and sustain a high-performance workforce who make all the planning initiatives and the governing body's goals into reality. Organizational restructuring occurred in utilities, public works, and business and economic development departments for cohesion, efficiency, and renewed focus in those respective areas. A compensation study and employee engagement survey were performed, resulting in pay increases for merit and market comparison correction, the development of career ladders to provide promotional opportunities, increased city contributions to health insurance to provide affordable choices, an enhanced wellness plan, leadership training and development, and enhanced efforts for communication to and appreciation of employees. Following years of vehicle and equipment deferral caused by the economic downturn and spurred by the resulting urgent condition of the police fleet, vehicle assessments were conducted and a replacement program was developed. Through the investment of nearly $1.06 million during the 3-year term from 2015 through 2017, the number of vehicles qualifying for replacement is just 10 in 2017. During that 3-year period, 4 police department vehicles were replaced annually, included 11 SUVs and a vehicle for animal control. Vehicles were also replaced in utilities, public works, utility billing, and business and economic development. In addition, much of the police department's equipment was replaced, including new uniforms and coats, guns, radios, body cameras, and body armor, and the police department added a K-9 officer and formed a bike patrol. Fiscal stewardship was enhanced. During this 5-year period, the finance department refinanced existing city debt, saving over $2.4 million in future interest cost, and obtained $2.5 million in grant funding. The city's outstanding debt decreased over $28 million, or 34%. And the city maintains an investment-grade credit rating of AA- stable from Standard & Poor's Rating Services. Earlier this year, a Kansas City television station recognized the city's influx of activity, noting that $21 million in new development is planned in the next 18 to 24 months, including the 84-room Hampton Inn with a 200-seat conference center. We already have our new car dealership, and we can see the construction of CVS and Dairy Queen. It is estimated this new development activity will bring 100 new employees to Gardner, and we anticipate 400 new single-family homes will be built within 24 months. The governing body recently annexed 75 acres south of I-35 for Tuscan Farms, which is a proposed upscale development of approximately 208 single-family lots and up to 21 fourplex or 84 additional rental housing units. As evidenced, the emerging economic transformation did not happen accidentally. It was strategically facilitated. Together with our citizens, we planned the work and worked the plan. Consequently, this year's budget theme is appropriately titled Emerging from Vision to Transformation. So we can do our annual review of the budget development for 2018. In February, the council had a retreat, and you set a top goal for each of your 4 strategic priorities. The top goal for promoting economic development was to diversify the tax base. The top goal for improving quality of life was to strengthen Gardner's regional image. Top goal for infrastructure and asset management was to provide a safe, efficient, and well-maintained transportation network. And for fiscal stewardship, it was to promote fiscal sustainability, which actually ties back to all the others, but especially economic development. In March, we discussed the growth in property values and the opportunity it presented to fund the Justice Center, the proposed cost, the feasibility of phasing, the impact of delaying, and the election process and timeline. The governing body provided the mill levy directive dependent on the Justice Center. If voters approved, you directed the valuation increase to pay for the Justice Center for the debt. If they didn't approve, per the tax lid, you directed a reduction in mills equivalent to the valuation increase. There was also a presentation on the vehicle replacement plan regarding the fleet process and noting the current and future needs. At that time, 23 vehicles qualified for urgent replacement. At the April 17th meeting, the governing body made health insurance decisions on premiums that both invest in employees and facilitate long-term savings for the city. Per the ADA Advisory Committee recommendation, Council approved the previously mentioned budget placeholders for the ADA improvements. 524 respondents provided online budget survey input. The citizens agreed with your top priority to diversify the tax base, as 53% voted that their priority was bringing in a variety of new businesses. At the May 15th meeting, per the priority-based budgeting process, we reviewed 2016. An update on the vehicle replacement program was provided, noting the 2018 estimate for replacement and that 2017 needed 2 more vehicles that exceeded the placeholder. Council approved. A new process for staffing decisions was conducted. Following leadership team's first cut to reach consensus for staffing request, Council determined staffing. Also at that meeting, the governing body approved calling the August 1st election for the Justice Center. And following discussion with Gardner Township representatives, the council increased funding to $27,000, representing half of the cemetery budget in exchange for decreased cost of cemetery lots for Gardner citizens. At the June 19th meeting, because council made the determination for staffing and vehicle replacements, staff had to return to council for direction to restore nearly $1 million to the general fund to maintain adequate reserves. Council conducted an exercise to restore nearly $1 million by increasing revenue and reducing expenditures, excuse me, including revising the staffing and eliminating the scheduled vehicle replacements for 2018. As previously requested by council, I'll review that process in just a minute. At July 3rd, a compensation study update was presented. And on August 7th, the resolution of intent to issue up to $13.72 million in GO bonds for the Justice Center was approved, thus confirming the mill levy directive. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to replay the slides from May 15th and June 19th. So originally, this was what was presented. Originally, there were 19 total FTEs requested by the departments. 16 were from the general fund and 3 from utilities that are not included in the general fund impact of the mill equivalent. Also included was a position reclassification and 1 additional prosecutor, which would have made a total of 3 prosecutors. Prosecutors are not counted as FTEs because the judge and prosecutors are not part of our salary structure. So The impact of all the original 16 general fund FTEs requested would be 1.1 million in ongoing salaries and benefits, or approximately 6.4 mils. So all staffing requests were reviewed internally by leadership team in a group meeting, and everyone's input was provided. And those positions in red font were brought forward to you as staff's consensus to forward for your consideration for inclusion in the budget. Council had previously directed inclusion of a city attorney and communications specialist, and a legal secretary was needed to support that city attorney. The Parks and Rec Department positions were recommended because of the then anticipated emphasis on sports tourism, increased programs, and golf course evaluation. And due to the huge increase in court citations, it was recommended to reconfigure the part-time customer service representative to a full-time court clerk, which was an increase of 0.5 FTE. And like I said before, another additional prosecutor was requested that would have been a total of 3. Again, prosecutors not included in the mill or FTE count. As an update since May, just last month we had a 404 person, not cases, person docket. Again, on May 15th, these positions in red were brought forward. Given the governing body's priority on the police department's needs, the civilian property officer position was recommended, and now that title has been changed to property evidence technician. A part-time maintenance worker for the airport and a street maintenance worker were also brought forward. These positions are funded from the utility funds, not taxes, and the funding impact is diffused among the utility funds. The inventory clerk was recommended, and the existing position reclassification was recommended. So this is the summary of all those red positions. Now they're in black and green. The summary that was brought forward as a staff's consensus request, presented at the May 15th meeting for your direction to include in the budget. All of the positions on this page in black font are paid from the general fund. And the estimated impact of these 10 FTEs, including benefits, is just a little over $700,000, or approximately 4 mils. And I say that there's two part-time equivalents, one to increase the part-time customer service position to a full-time court clerk, and the additional part-time airport maintenance worker add together to 1 FTE, which is why I note there are 10 positions, because there's more than 10 listed right there. The additional prosecutor was recommended again, but it's not included in the FTE, and funding for that would have been less than 1/10 of a mil. The utility position and reclassification are now shown in green font, and again, the funding for those would have been spread among the utilities. So at the May 15th meeting, council removed the positions in red font and directed the communications specialist to be decreased to part-time. Everything else remained. Because council made the staffing determination at the May 15th meeting, staff had to return to council on June 19th for direction when the resulting projected end of the year 2018 fund balance was inadequate. At the June 19th meeting, council conducted an exercise to restore $1 million to the general fund. Council struck all the positions shown in red, leaving only the building inspector, the police property evidence technician, and the part-time airport maintenance worker, because that's paid from the airport fund, and the utilities inventory clerk and position reclassification, which are paid from the utility funds. These reductions restored approximately $295,750 in ongoing savings to the general fund, as employees are not one-time expenditures, or the equivalent of 1.7 mils. As a note, although there is no significant impact on the budget, since the June 19th meeting, career ladder promotional opportunities have been created for the police department, as 3 officers will be reclassified to detectives. Other decisions made at the June 19th meeting were one-time adjustments for the fiscal year 2018 projected fund balance. At your direction, we removed 4 police operations vehicles, 3 vehicles from streets, and 1 vehicle from engineering, for a total of $382,500. You also remove the sports tourism study for $100,000. And to increase revenues, we moved a portion of the special county sales tax to the general fund. That is not the sales tax that's for the courthouse. There's like 3 different ones. That is not the courthouse one. So the total restored was $978,250. Following this exercise, and including all the other directives previously noted in the budget development timeline I just reviewed, the projected end of the year 2018 general fund balance is 23%. So the 2018 initiatives, or the short-term goals that support the long-term goals of the governing body. The first one is the Justice Center. This is the major initiative for 2018, and we'll be working on acquiring bids. Bonds will be issued in late 17 or early 2018 to construct the facility to house the police headquarters, municipal court, and other community purposes. The associated debt will be repaid over 20 years using a combination of property taxes and the city's share of Johnson County's quarter-cent countywide public sales tax that was approved for the courthouse. The project will take approximately 2 years to complete, and the first debt payment will be approximately $953,700 as designed so that we could calculate the mill levy. The remaining 19 years can be reconfigured depending on the project bids and the debt sale. There's a fiber connection for Niche. In March, Council approved the police department's participation in the Niche Law Enforcement's record management system that's coordinated and housed and maintained by Johnson County. In partnership with Johnson County Information Technology Department, this fiber connection will establish a secure, reliable, always-on connection from the police department to the Johnson County Justice Information Management System. The estimated cost is $70,000. Dogwood Energy Facility. In July, Council authorized the participation with Kansas Municipal Energy Agency to purchase 20 megawatt owner participation interest in the Dogwood Energy Facility. This will provide the power capacity needed for the community. The project will cost approximately $11.97 million. KMEA will issue the bonds, and we will pay a portion of the debt for 20 years. The 2018 budget includes the estimated financial closing requirements, excuse me, and the debt payments are approximately $180,000 annually beginning in 2019 for 20 years. Water capacity. As identified in the 2017 Water Master Plan, additional capacity is needed. The city is pursuing a 1 million gallons a day connection with Water One. The project is currently estimated at $5.4 million, and debt service payments are planned to begin in 2018 and will continue for 20 years. ADA projects. Mobility and accessibility initiatives to ensure Gardner's inclusiveness for all citizens are included. The initiatives were developed from the recommendations made by the ADA Advisory Committee that were resulting from the self-evaluation of accessibility of city programs, services, and facilities. The committee prioritized approximately $110,000 in projects to be phased over 17 and 18. Approximately $50,000 was included in the 17 estimated budget, and approximately $60,000 was further spread to 18. Next year, Phase 3 of the streets rehabilitation and Phase 2 of the pedestrian trails rehabilitation are planned, and they will be paid from the half-spent special sales tax fund. There is a merit placeholder for merit compensation as efforts to facilitate high performance, efficiency, employee retention, and succession planning continue. The West Fork Kill Creek Quail Meadows Neighborhood Park project. Staff is pursuing grant funding for the second phase, and this project is grant dependent and will be reviewed for likelihood of implementation based on the outcome of the grant award. The 2018 budget includes the capital projects shown here to maintain the operation of our utilities. The total is $1.08 million for cash-funded projects. I'll give you just a second to read those, unless you want me to read them out loud. Here's more utility capital projects. These will be bundled and debt financed to spread the cost over the useful life of the improvements. The total is $4.815 million, and they'll be scheduled when they're actually ready. Projects tend to slide around a little, but right now, this is the estimate. In addition to the capital projects for maintaining utility operations that we just reviewed, presented here is a recap of the budget information for our utilities. As noted in previous year, the water fund is very strong, even while it's subsidizing wastewater. Without the subsidy, there would likely be large rate spikes or increases as future projects are implemented for wastewater. As in previous years, there are no budgeted expenditures in the Electric Capital Replacement Reserve Fund. And the projected end of the year 2018 fund balances are good in all three utility funds. GFOA says the best practice for utility reserves is 6 weeks or 12%. Our projected end of 2018 fund balances is water at 36, wastewater at 20, and electric at 58. The Electric Capital Replacement Reserve contains $3.03 million. And for the third year in a row, no rate increases are recommended. In summary, the 2018 recommended budget provides the resources to support the continuing transformation and achieving the top priority of both the governing body and the citizens to diversify the tax base. It is structurally sound with projected adequate reserves in both tax levy funds and strong reserves in the utility funds. It addresses current infrastructure needs while continuing to provide exceptional services that benefit and enrich our community as committed in the leadership team's mission statement, while it also prepares for long-term sustainability. It maintains the total mill levy and the increased property tax revenues resulting from the 10.1% growth in taxable property values were directed to the debt service fund to pay for the Justice Center as directed by the governing body. It also maintains current utility rates. This presentation will be provided again at the August 21st council meeting before the public hearing and before you consider the 2018 budget approval.
Thank you, Laura. I'm going to open the floor for public comments, and honestly, if you want to take a seat and answer questions from your seat at the desk, that would be appropriate. At this point, I'll open the floor for public comments regarding the presentation of the 2018 budget. With no one coming up,
Sorry.
spoke too soon.
Randy Gagorczyk, 620 East Hawthorne. I've just got one question with respects to electricity. Will we or should we anticipate an increase in the pilot? I know we talked about that earlier in the year, and I would believe that increase in the pilot, and I won't make any recommendations as to how much that increase would be, but I think the increase to the pilot is a good adjustment to make.
Very good. Thank you, Randy. Anyone else? No one else coming forward? Questions or comments regarding the 2018 budget? I would ask council members that if you've got a question about a particular point in the budget, make sure you say what section it's in, page if possible, and so that everybody can get on the same page as quickly as is possible. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to make this short because I think we can shorten this meeting. I'm looking at the applicable statute for the property tax lid right now, KSA 79-2925C, subsection B3. It states this: any increased property tax revenues generated for law enforcement, fire protection, or emergency medical services shall be expended exclusively for those purposes, but shall not be used for the construction or remodeling of buildings. Thus the need for the vote. Because in the statute it says very clearly that you cannot just conduct a investment in buildings, whether it's remodeling or construction, without a vote above and beyond the consumer price index. I'm looking at it right here. All right? So the reason why I bring that up is because there's another statute, KSA 791801, that says this: if the governing body of a city or county must conduct an election for an increase in property tax to fund any appropriation or budget under KSA 2016 Supplement 25-433A and amendments thereto, the governing body of the city or county shall certify on or before October 1st to the proper county clerk the amount of ad valorem tax to be levied. According to the statute I'm reading here, and according to the interpretation, and it's not very, this is a pretty significant, it's pretty straightforward here, okay? We needed a tax vote. We conducted a tax vote. And because we conducted a tax vote, because we were required to, under the statute, we fall under this time frame, which means we have until October 1st to furnish our budget. Now, I wish we had our legal counsel here, because I need to have an opinion on this. But to be honest, instead of rushing into approving a budget and not being able to have time to look at the information, I just got my budget book yesterday, okay? Without having time to look at it, I think it behooves us here to take a step backwards and do this right. And I know that there's some discrepancies that I noticed in the very, when was this here? Should be, yes.
I'll bring that up.
Is this yours?
This is
thing?
me, so
All right,
go ahead and finish
all
it.
right. I'm sorry. This part of the statute here, that which I think just went right around the room, says it should be certified to the county clerk. There is a opinion, a legal opinion from the state attorney's or the attorney general's office here, and I believe that this is the same one. Yeah, the attorney general has ruled that all dates prescribed by the budget law are directory. Directory meaning that they are strongly recommended but not mandatory. Attorney General Opinion 86-127. If this deadline cannot be met, you contact the county clerk to explain why the budget will be late and when the budget will be submitted. And again, that's there's a Kansas statute 79-1801, which is part of what I just read. So again, we have time to get this budget submitted in a systematic fashion and have it approved by the governing body in a situation where we have input from the people and that we have the right expenditures for our city going forward. And I'm going to stop with that, but I mean, I'm not a lawyer. You're absolutely right, Chris. I'm not a lawyer, but the language seems pretty darn straightforward to me.
Well, I'd entertain a motion.
For what?
Sounds like you want to adjourn.
Sure, I'll be happy to adjourn. Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? For lack of a second.
Okay.
Motion fails.
So, if I might, I'd like to add too, I did contact John Bartolak today from the, what was it?
Bartolak?
Right.
Yes.
So, Director of Records and Tax Administration, and asked him about what happens if we file late. And he said there are no penalties. They would prefer to have it by at least the 31st, but there are no penalties that they've ever seen assessed for a late filing. So we could actually extend this beyond Monday. I'm willing to work every night next week because I want to pour through this, and I'll show you why here in a minute when I get my chance to discuss this.
If you've got some things to pour through, I'd rather do it while we're here now,
Yeah.
and then we can go from there.
Kristen, do you have
I
anything?
agree.
Oh, let me give one to Cheryl. So in the, on the budget, it's under the admin section. And I'm going to start by prefacing, at the last meeting, we were told that we've gone through this budget. It was everything we picked, and we all know it already. And I'm just going to tell you, I got the spreadsheets, and from my perspective, that is not exactly correct. There's a lot of stuff in here that we didn't discuss. And I went through this spreadsheets over the last 2 weeks. I buried myself in it today, and I'm going to go over a few of those things right now. For admin, as an example, which is under the General Fund 01, which that may be different for you folks out there. I printed off the spreadsheets. We have legal services for 2017 budget was $167,500. We've estimated we're going to spend $228,000 in 2017, but then we just went ahead and did $228,000 again for 2018. Now, I know we had a lot of legal issues this year, but I don't think we need to just carry over the same amount that we spent the year before, knowing that there's not that issue. So that very first thing, I have a real problem with that because that's a huge percentage jump. And unless you can tell me we're going to be sued and we need to have all that extra money in there, I really think we can reappropriate that money somewhere else. So there also is under, let me find it. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, it's not on your notes here, but I'll tell you, it's on the admin section 1120 it was on sheet 3 on the thing. So it's in the same admin section, but I think it's on the 3rd page. It says legal services. And in 2017, again, we're at $165,000 for the budget. We went to $225,000, and then our budget for 18 is $225,000. So we're at almost $500,000 in legal fees in 2 columns. Yes.
When you read the first admin piece that you just
Right.
referenced, that is an accumulation of all departments within administration, so you're double counting.
Okay, all right, that's what I didn't, and I wondered about that because the only other thing I found was there was $3,000 and I couldn't figure out where that went. So.
And that rolls up to the first one.
Right, thank you, because they were on so many different pages. That's where I was getting, I was losing it. So, but the next thing is in admin, and this is back on the very first thing at the top of the page. Meeting, training, and travel for admin. How many folks are in administration, Cheryl, under that classification? Okay, 11. All right. So we have, for meetings, training, and travel, we have $97,000 budgeted for 2018, and we spent $71,000 or we budgeted $71,000 in 2017 and spent $99,000. So, we sat up here, and this is what I'm kind of upset about. We were presented with a whole bunch of stuff to cut $1 million one day and got rid of all the police cars and all the other staff we needed, but yet we weren't presented with items like this to cut. And to me, that's problematic because these things are easy cuts where we can, because if there's I'd rather have a police car or some vehicle to help staff or another staff member than to travel.
Laura?
The majority of the jump is because of the governing body's request for leadership development and enhanced wellness program. So that is almost all of it. And you, of course, you may cut it if you wish, but that was one of the employee engagement things that I just covered in the presentation.
Right. I don't think it was, when it was presented to us, I don't think it was presented as 97,000.
That represents, because it's in the general fund, because it falls in the HR fund, that represents training development for the entire city. So it comes out to about $330 some an employee.
Right, and then, but HR had their own funds, so is that, is this still rolling over? Okay.
These are all rolling up.
So, I did see too, our HR, our IT, we had about $800,000 on the budget, on the budget worksheet. That one, I don't remember what that was. I think it was on page 41 in the budget workbook. Pretty sure.
Is it still part of administration?
Yeah, it was in its, I'm pretty sure it was on the online one, it was 41, I'm pretty sure, so.
Councilman, is it one of your SNP pages right here? I think it was. Hold on, let me catch up.
There's, but, you know, I'm trying to, I'm sorry? Well, I don't have it on here. It was,
Hold on. Okay, hold on, I think I'm catching up. Okay, so you're referring to information services, and you said it's what number are we looking for?
it was page 41, as I believe, I'm gonna look here, because
If you look, okay, under the blue line on the top there, there's program. Mayor and city council is 1110. Administration's 1120.
no, hold on. It was in,
Economic development's 1130. Human resources
it's there,
1140.
the 41st page in this book. Is this mirrored? No, that's the one you gave me, the other one with the spreadsheets. Good. If there's another question, go ahead and I'll find it. No, it was one of these, it was in the very beginning. There was a specimen, it was broken down on like this, and it said, it was on page 41.
I'm wondering if it's,
Is the online version the same as your book there?
under internal service funds.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Because I just remember page 41.
Was it general fund or IT?
I just remember the page, it was like
Because I think
800,000 for IT.
that's
So, let me see, let me find your email yesterday. No. All right, I guess, well, I'll just move on to another question when I look for this. Risk services, what does that entail? What is, because I saw that on every line, you know, with one with, so
let me get back with that.
I'll find this
All right.
other.
Anything that I noticed in almost all of these little snips that you were going to ask questions
Right.
about, you have noted internal services, and then there's a line for building services, IT services, and risk services.
Right.
Okay, we have internal service funds, and those are funds that provide internal support to all other city departments. And they don't make money. In other words, the expenses are charged back out as provided services to every department. So every one of those lines in every department that you see that says building services, IT services, or risk services are nothing more than the cost allocation of building maintenance, IT, and risk services, and actually utility billing, but it goes through utility funds for the benefiting departments. It's their prorated share.
And risk services is, that's what that was my, it was insurance, okay, all right.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to figure out, so, here we go.
Your asset insurance.
Page 41, this says information technology, estimate fiscal year. Yeah, it's in the wicked message, right, page 41, that's what.
Oh, okay.
So,
Right here. So that's in other words, that's the total budget for IT.
Right, so my question is $843,700. And I know Greg and the guys do a great job. I'm just wondering what is costing $800,000 with 3 people? I'm sure there's some software stuff and, yeah, no, please, that's why I asked. Okay, all right. Well, I figured, that's why I'm asking, but I want to know.
So in the IT budget, the majority, oh, I'm sorry.
There it is.
In the IT budget, the majority of your expenditures, remember, this is a citywide collection of IT.
Right.
So all city IT, our core business software, let me just read it to you. And they're like you said, there's 3 people, okay.
No, I understand, and that's why I wanted to find out exactly what we're looking at, because
Okay, that's all right, I'll catch up.
Does
with
this
you.
include website, AIMS,
All kinds of
Police website, every
Yeah,
department.
so, okay, it's
the
the
payment management system?
citywide
Yeah.
phone bills. I'm just reading some
Yeah.
stuff here. Network support, server maintenance, copier maintenance for the
Windows
copiers.
licenses. That's a lot. Yeah.
So the core business software and all of the various components we have is $107,000. Microsoft licensing, I'm just reading big chunks.
Mhm.
That's going to be a big one.
Our Kronos
Just covers all
payroll
kinds of- okay, that's,
software.
All right.
Planet
It might
software.
be beneficial to
ArcView
put like some asterisk
software.
by that from, for next year, because people were asking me, what are we doing with $800,000 in IT? And I said, I don't know.
It's
I mean,
a
that's
million kinds of software support and our core business software support and, I'm reading PC replacements.
That was in a different line item. I saw that.
It's still part of your total.
It's still part of the total, okay.
It's rolled up.
Oh, yeah, all right.
And the financing plan with the last year of that payment was this year. That was a big one. So it's just all things, sorry, I forgot again. All things IT.
Right.
All things electronic processing, but for niche, which was separated to the police department.
Doesn't matter if it's in Jody Demoline's shop or down in.
Doesn't matter where it
Water
was.
treatment
Right.
plant or all the way out at the water treatment plant at Hillsdale.
Or Michael Kramer's
Right, the purpose.
Right.
The purpose of an internal service fund is to collect all those expenditures in one place so
Yep.
that we can do this right here to trend and whatever, and then we allocate it back to the benefiting departments prorated, proportionate. And so all they do is pay back in to provide the funds to pay for this. And at the end of the year, we true up. We don't we didn't spend it all, then the benefiting departments get it back. If it was a little more, instead of amending the budget, I usually charge it directly back to the departments. And then that way we don't have such a big mess. So, and the end balance is always zero.
And the reason you want to do that, council member, is so that you don't have the general fund absorbing those expenses for enterprise funds. You don't want to have the general fund absorbing when electric's charging rates.
Right.
You want them paying their freight for electric or if wastewater or water, so you want to have an internal service fund so
Okay.
that everybody pays.
Yes.
So-
Several years ago, the governing body gave me direction to do cost allocation, and this was part of it.
Yeah, because it's a generally accepted accounting practice.
That's
and one
right.
that most businesses use to amortize depreciated revenue.
So the other thing, going down my list here, dues and subscriptions. There's a lot of, obviously, line items for that, and I was just wondering what does that entail? Because I'm just looking at things that maybe we can, cut to bring some things back that we wanted that we got rid of.
Do you have a specific department, or you're just talking in general?
In general,
What are dues
I
and
mean,
subscriptions?
is that one of those things that we, can?
Generally speaking, dues are memberships so that you can get training cheaper.
Right.
So I have a membership to GFOA that's like $150. And this is the accumulation of all those things. I don't know that we have so many subscriptions. I could look.
Yeah.
Each fund, there may or may not be some sort of subscription oddity, but for the most part, we're not talking about periodicals. We're talking about
It's mostly
things that
business
get you
related,
right.
okay, all right.
Business related things that get you into something else cheaper.
Right, not, well, that's what I was wondering, are we just getting a lot of magazines?
Oh, no.
Okay, all right. And then, special events under the mayor and council 1110 is, that 24,600, is that pretty much?
I'm sorry, it may take me just a second.
No,
These
yeah,
are
no, I understand.
plowing through some working documents. Hang on just a
Don't worry.
minute.
While Laura's looking at that,
Yeah.
can we go back? So I feel like we're talking about a laundry list of stuff, but really, so the $300 per employee on meetings, travel, and training, are we okay with that? Do we think that's a fair number?
Now, I want to be clear you understood what I was saying because I'm utterly transparent. That was for leadership development
Right.
and your directive for employee engagement. And it came out to approximately $330 and change an employee. That there are other trainings in specific departments for things like the GFOA conference or the Public Works APB, whatever all the acronyms are. That's not part of that. That was specifically for leadership development and employee engagement.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that benefits the employee and it benefits us.
I was more worried that it was one department, 99,000, so that was,
And in answer to your question about special events, Councilman,
Yep.
almost all of these special events under mayor and council is for State of the City production.
okay.
I mean, there's a sort of little scribblings here for this and that. There's like when you host a tour for the KDOT secretary or whatever, we
Right.
have expenses for that, those kind of things. But for the most part,
Yeah.
it's State of the City.
Well, and I wondered about it because from, fiscal year 2016, we did less than $11,000, and all of a sudden in 8 and 17, our estimate's going to be 24.6, and then it's 24.6 again. So
There's another $4,000 for your committee appreciation event that you had last year. And so we carried it. The one where your advisory committees.
right.
Which we had in December, but we carried it into the.
you have it, we're doing it every year,
Right.
It's the one that we did in December,
Right.
the appreciation, volunteer
Right, right.
appreciation.
And then that same meetings, training, and travel still carries over for the other stuff. So I guess that's. Just, I'll be honest with you, the way this is laid out just makes it a little difficult for me because I'm trying to flip through all the pages to make sure that things, so is there a way I can get this where these are all together? Is that on one of these pages or no? Is that, because I didn't see it that
Okay,
way.
so
I was
the-
running math.
The way it works, the way all department budgets work, so if you flip through every tab from
Right.
general to finance to whatever, the first page in it, at the top, the program will say all,
Right,
and that is the roll-up of all the pages behind it.
okay.
And I don't mean to be argumentative, but in the answer to your question, that is the way it's done. That's the way our budget stuff's laid out.
Right, so, but in the spreadsheets that I have, or Parks and Rec and everything was broken down separately, so that's,
It still rolls up.
Still rolls up.
so the all to the, okay, all right. All right, well, I'll look at that again.
all, and then like admin, so in Parks it would have been all, Parks Administration, Parks Maintenance, Aquatic Center.
Right.
All those add up to all.
Okay. All right, well, I'll go back and look at this again then, because that makes a little bit more sense why the numbers weren't adding up, so.
Okay. I had, if you'd like, I tried to make a little bit of notes when you sent this about what you might be looking at. So if you want to flip through, I can throw out the notes that I made and maybe that'll even answer some more of your questions. It might make you feel better.
Well, if there's other members that have those questions, I personally, what I'm going to do is look at this again, now knowing what I know about, and I'm going to go through it and just, if I have other questions, I'll just ask them. But, as I was looking at it today, it just,
Okay, well, let me throw a few chunks at you.
okay.
In general, anything having to do with increases in personnel was either the addition of the FTEs that you approved for like building inspector or whatever, there was a few of those, the impact of the health insurance decisions that you made. The governing body, when I said that you see all of the decisions, you do, except for paper clips, gravel, wire, all field dirt, office supplies,
Magazines.
magazines that don't,
Right.
not magazines. So other than treatment chemicals, other than the things that the city needs to operate, just to operate the divisions, I told you the big chunks. health insurance. So there, let's just say, for example, there was a 5% increase in the 2018 expenditures from the 2017 original budget. About 3% of that was the health insurance directive that you made, and the other 2% is roughly the impact of the merit increases that carry year to year on your employees. So it's almost all directives that you've given.
Well, yeah, I know. The one that specifically is not, though, is the legal services. That's the one, that's a chunk. That goes from 167.5, which we had budgeted in 17, to 228,000, which is what we estimate we're going to spend, and then we carry that over.
That's fine.
In itself, that's 2 police cars. I mean, that's
Police cars about 44,000 each, and if
30,
you want that
I think they were
reduced,
32, isn't it?
not with the equipment. On that schedule that we did in the exercise,
Right.
we had them at 44,000 each. Oh, but you can certainly direct me to change that number to anything you'd like
Well, I'm
and buy a
bringing it
police
up to
car.
the rest of the body so
Sure.
they can decide that.
And I would think too, though, I mean, that's, the budget is fluid throughout the year too. We could, if we're not using that kind of legal, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Actually, this may also help. I said the budget is your policy document, but the law, you budget at the fund level. So it is up to staff to try to stay within the line item placeholders. But at the end of the day, if the department expenditures, if you say, okay, well, you know what, we won't go to that training, but we'll go to something else, or we'll buy a police car instead of doing legal services. I mean, they're just estimates, they're placeholders. The ones that matter are at the bottom line fund balance for every fund.
I
And
understand.
internally, it's our policy document, we understand.
But yeah, that's my thing, is once we pass this, we're not going to really probably talk about it again. It's going to be handled internally, and we won't see it. That's why I'd like to make sure we know what's going on now before we send it down the road.
All right, well, you may direct anything you wish.
Here's a question I've got. What justifies $228,000 in legal services? What are we seeing in 2018 that's going to require the same level of expenditures that we're having this year because of legal actions that we've been dealing with, primarily? And I'm asking that of the city administrator. What do you see down the road that's going to require additional expenditures approaching this year? Because we know this was an anomaly this year.
The thing when you outsource legal services, it's really hard to have a handle on them because you really can't anticipate what you're going to get in terms of hours. Internally, we have a little bit more control because we have a set salary and we know what we're going to pay that city attorney. So the trend has been with our legal fees is it's continued to exceed what we've budgeted since we've outsourced it. And so that number is kind of a placeholder based on what we've been seeing with the trend.
And also, we've had special legal services from Mr. Hardwick. And if you have another development opportunity like Hampton Inn, it's probably best practice to have a budget placeholder rather than to say, well, I mean, again, that would be handled internally. If you budget it at $200,000 or $190,000, okay. But if we need Mr. Hardwick, do you want to not do the project, or do you want us to just say, okay, we'll pay for it and we won't worry about it because we'll adjust it somewhere else in the bottom line, which staff makes those kind of decisions all the time under the guidance of what you want us to do. But on the other hand, we're also aware that you want us to do economic development projects, and if Mr. Hardwick is needed, then Mr. Hardwick is needed.
Yeah. The reason why I say this is because we have a placeholder for legal services, and it's taking away from our ability to handle needed expenditures, for example, police cars. That I mean, the fact we dropped 4 police cars off the rotation this coming year, I think, to be honest, is going to bite us in the rear end at some point. Because now, if we keep things the way they are and we don't make those allocations of budget, looking at 2019, now we're looking at 8 cars probably we'll have to pick up. And I'm not interested in playing catch up anymore. If we can get 1 or even 2 police cars and be able to, massage some of these placeholders down slightly, I'd like to do that. I don't know about the rest of the governing body, but
That's what I've been trying to figure out.
Well, I don't know that we could provide you any further information on that particular line item, so would you like to make a decision now, and I will make a note and we'll massage it right here? I don't think there could be anything else we could give you.
I mean, what, I'm
So
gonna go
if
back to the
we
police
could-
chief's opinion on this.
So on the,
I mean,
on the legal services, pretty much if you want to set an amount, we do what we can get done, and if we don't have legal fees to do a project that comes to the city, then we either don't move forward if we can't get it back in time to get permission, and some of the economic development projects, we don't have the ability to come back, so we cannot do it.
There's a certain amount of expenditures you can do under your signature authority, am I not correct in
That is correct. I can do it, but if the cap is $120,000, and we know we need that just for base services, then I can't issue another $25,000 because you've only given spend authority for 120 or 100 or whatever number you pick. That is, we would only spend up to that amount.
You
And
could drop it
we
to
do
180 and
have,
still be above last year's level.
we do have development projects going north and south
I know.
and east and west.
I know.
I'd be curious to know how that's broken down, how it was broken down last year.
I would say probably 90%, 10%, because the economic development projects that we did were Project 1, 2, 3, and the Hampton Inn, both of which we use special counsel with our financial advisor and special legal counsel. But probably 90% of that, and we can go back and look at the numbers, okay, is going to be just the flux of what you're getting from your standing city attorney contract services.
This is another thing I was going to bring up, and it kind of leads into this, but I was actually going to recommend that we start doing monthly evals of where the budget's at versus where our expenditures are, and that way would allow us, if we saw that we're going through those legal fees fast, we can say, hey, we need to adjust for something at that time. And that way we are not blindsided by, hey, all of a sudden, we don't have enough money for
Doubling
something
the
else.
amount of, legal
So
services.
I've talked to the school board president, Rob Shippey, and that's the way they do it, and it works well for them because they're not blindsided by anything at the end of the year. They come in and they go, hey, look, we've already talked about it 10 times or 11 times, and it's a no-brainer at that point what's going on. And I like that idea because that way it's every meeting the citizens get to see what's going on.
So I was a little low. Instead of 90-10, it's 96% of your MVP just contract legal services to 4% special projects. Right now, today.
I know,
Right.
I was thinking about 90-10, but it's even higher than that.
yeah. And again, a lot of those services are because of some legal actions that we've had to deal with that aren't covered by
NPR.
NPR. So, again, to me, that's a special circumstance. It's not something that we're going to be seeing every single year, at least I hope not.
Right.
That'd be a big problem.
So am I hearing we need to be reducing legal services?
I think we need to at least drop it to 180. That'd pay for a police car right there.
Okay.
I don't know about the rest of
I
you.
mean, what do you think, Todd? Christine?
I'm okay with that.
So I'm gonna drop it to 180, and I assume that means a 5 police car also? We need to have at least one at this point?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Don't worry, I don't have to tell you.
44,000. So that's what we had on the exercise.
Sure.
Okay. What else can I help you with?
You have something more? I mean, I got some more, so.
No, go on. Go on, Rich.
I saw on the salary schedule was revised, and we have a couple, do we have some people upgraded? I saw some stuff here that just kind of jumped out at me. So, you want to explain what?
No.
No?
Nothing's upgraded in the 18 except for, let's go back to police department.
Right?
Can you go back to the slide there?
What? Yeah.
We're going to go back to the positions that you recommended.
Right.
That's what's in the budget for.
So, this is what Gail recommended for the police department then?
No, these are the positions, okay, the sheet that you just gave me.
Right, no, I mean, you
That's
you
last
talked
year's
about
budget.
Yeah, no, there's the okay, but did these change, did we have an upgrade in some
No,
this
those
year?
positions are in last year's budget.
Okay,
That's-
yeah,
Right.
but I'm saying, did anybody upgrade?
Those happened already.
Those are
Okay.
done. Those are last year's
Okay,
budget.
sorry.
So
But
the
nobody
only-
upgraded this year,
so
I
the-
mean, that's what I'm
yes,
asking.
yes, you have some positions that you recommended as part of,
The line maintenance superintendent,
Right,
Yes.
that was the only one that you've actually approved at this time.
okay, all right. That's what I want to make sure we didn't, because sorry, I was a little confused on that, but this, I just want to make sure this was.
no, none of those
So-
are for 18.
All right, so, and then I had a constituent send me some questions on this. There's that. Should get this all on. So on some budget comparisons from previous years, and he was just wondering, based on these, we're,
Okay, let me get to the page you're on. In the,
well, this is what he gave me. He sent that to me. And it was based on previous budgets, where we're at with these. He wasn't able to make it tonight. So.
okay, hold on.
All right, I will have him come to the next meeting then, so. All right,
Yeah.
we'll have him come in. He wasn't able to make it, so he just said, can you,
This is not a special.
and I didn't know either, so I'm trying to.
I think this is in millions.
It is in the
Sure.
millions, I know that.
Yeah.
so. But,
Okay, give me this one, what I'm thinking.
all right, that's
More
it
information?
for now, and I'll read it and get the rest of it, and I'll get with him, and, because I got that last minute, so.
I
thought
can
maybe
say
we'll be able to
that-
decipher it.
All analysis, you can read the budget message for the debt service fund, the general fund, and it will actually talk on both sides about the revenue trends and the expenditure differences. They're all pointed out in the budget message itself, and you can just look under the heading for that fund.
We can talk about,
Yeah, don't worry about it, because
we can
I'll
talk
have
about
him
that
bring
after the
it.
meeting.
I talked to him about 4 hours ago, and there's so many things that come through my head. So I'll have him come in and do it. No, it's all right. Trust me, it's been one of those days. I'm good for now.
Well, and, I suggested this a while back about questions, when you've got questions, and if you can get with staff, there were some things where maybe if you'd visited with Laura or Cheryl or somebody in finance and accounting, some of this could have been cleared up in advance. And I can appreciate that you like to do things in front of the public, but I think that some of this could have been easily explained specifically to you in advance. So if you have the opportunity, I'm sure if they have the time, and I see Laura raising her hand, that they'll take the time to help you with the questions that you've got. Laura?
I would like to go ahead and, I think I know what Mr. Councilman Mountain was going to ask on some of these, because they appear to be flagged, and I did make some notes. If you'd like to, there's only about 5, but I can go through them. One of the things that I know everybody asks every year at some point, in finance, there was audit and financial and legal services and some other things. I'm going to guess you want to know, why is there legal services in finance? That's municipal court appointed attorneys and interpreters.
Yep.
So that has nothing to do with defending anything other than required as law by defendants get it right, they're right in court, and we have to pay for it. Audit and financial is exactly what it says. We're required to have an audit, and the governing body approved a contract through fiscal year 18, and the amount you see in the 18 budget is per that contract. I noticed there was a spot in building and economic development about why did the phone thing, it looked to me like the question was going to be, why did the phones double? Well, you improved a building inspector, and I assume that person needs a phone. So that's why it doubled. And then I think you're asking again because we showed it in roll up and you showed it in
Right.
separate. So, and like I said, internal services are, I think, you understand that one?
Yep.
And really, that appears to be the majority, let's see, majority of what you asked. I'm not seeing that I made too many other notes here, but that legal services and finance gets people excited every year, and it's not for anything other than court appointed.
Right, and just to tell you, Mayor, I get questions from citizens, and then I ask them here, and then I answer them. So it's not just me, it's citizens that contact me and need an answer, and this is the place to ask it, so.
Laura?
I did find another note. There
Yep.
is a place under engineering where it jumps way up from 17 and some odd thousand and actuals, and then 20. That's your ADA improvements
Okay.
that you asked for.
That's the 50,000 we have.
And 60,000, and also Michael had asked, the ADA committee apparently was considering a transition matrix for right-of-way, so there's some money in there for that too. So between the improvements that the ADA advisory committee asked for and you approved, and that right-of-way matrix, that's almost all of that jump. And then also in internal service funds, there's the general fund allocation line that's in all the internal service funds. It's also in all the utility funds, and we talk about that every year.
Right.
It is their share of services they receive from the
Correct.
general fund, and they're charged, and the revenue goes to the general fund to pay for HR and finance and all those things, administration.
It's a net zero, basically.
Cheryl?
So, Councilmember, you were asking about the positions. So on the positions, there were the property evidence technician, and I was trying to get back to that slide. That's a position that is added in 2018. So the positions that you
Those are still the
looked
same,
at,
yeah, right.
those are in this budget.
Okay.
And you'll recall there were some ranges that the pay and comp consultant talked about
Yeah.
that's also reflected on this,
So I
This
guess
salary
that was,
structure. Okay, so here we are, back to the
I forgot to ask
position.
about that earlier, and I didn't, we kind of
Okay.
went that other direction.
Oops, hold on.
wait a minute.
Hold on, okay, so.
Okay.
Right, okay.
All
Just
right.
want to make sure you're clear on
Yeah,
the position. So the
and-
building inspector position,
Property evidence technician.
Right.
Part-time airport maintenance worker that's paid from the airport fund. Utilities inventory clerk, and the position reclassification, and that was from crew leader to line maintenance superintendent that we talked about and you approved back then. Those two bottom ones are from the utilities. Airport's from airport, the other two are from general fund, and also, along with that would be like, oh, I can't see you all, sorry. Along with all of that is training that they need, a phone that they may need, nothing crazy or extravagant. It would be related, an estimate on what health insurance they may take. We kind of shoot the middle on that.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right, real quick, did I guess, did Gail come back with a recommendation on the police department wages? You know, because that was, we'd heard from her, there really wasn't anything, and so I'm wondering, because I think the last meeting we talked about it, Chief said they were going to have a meeting or something.
and she's been meeting with them, and I spoke with him today, and my understanding from him today is that they still haven't finalized that, and they're going to work on that next week. Is that correct? That you all still haven't finalized the recommendation?
So how are we going to adjust the budget then? Thank you, Laura. I mean,
Okay, so please don't, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence.
No,
At
no,
all, in any
please
way,
do. I
none of
mean,
you.
really,
And for the people
I don't
listening.
have much, so
the
it's not hurt.
The way budget is done is we develop placeholders.
Right.
And again, placeholders are policy, but because we are required to do at the fund level. And remember, you also budget your reserves. So if we come back and we say $20,000 is what we need to do corrections in the police department, okay, that is, I'm not gonna make, you don't have to amend anything.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything. I will let you know, or I'll let Cheryl know, oh, holy cow, something broke, which is what we did in May and in June. So other than that, let me give you another rule of thumb. It takes $100,000 now, the city's bigger, it takes $100,000 before anything happens to the general fund balance. $100,000 to move the needle up or down. So $4,000, $5,000, $20,000, takes a whole bunch of those to make any significant impact on the budget.
Right. Well, I just want to make sure we don't forget that, because that is, we still have people who are going to try to poach off our officers. I mean, they're out there waiting, and I don't want, we've taken a long time to do that, and I want to make sure it gets done.
It will make no change to the mill levy that's already calculated. It will make
Okay.
no significant change to the fund balance reserves.
Thank you.
And kind of to Rich's point about monitoring the budget and where we're at with the budget, whether it's monthly or quarterly, maybe keeping some of these priority things that we took off and then making suggestions as the year goes on. Maybe, hey, we're showing we're not using that much in the legal fund. Maybe we can push some of that towards.
I would be more interested in telling you at the end of the year, because right now you're only in August, so there's still a third of the year to go. So I would hesitate to say during the budget process, which has to be done by August, even if we don't get any weirdities. Wouldn't be hugely comfortable with going line item by line item, but what I would be comfortable with is saying, hey, we had an extra $500,000 in the general fund reserves because revenues were more and expenditures were less, or whatever happened. And then we already talked about it, and I already promised you I'd bring you back that exercise at the beginning of next year. I said I'd keep that very list and we could just start right from there. And unless you direct me different, I had every intention of doing that.
No, I just like the idea of a, kind of a more, regular budget meeting, I guess would be the thing. Where we just sit down and in 20 minutes we go over, hey, look, this is what we're looking like, this is where we're at. Kind of like when I'm looking at my budget, I go, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we got to be, here's how much we have left, and here's how much month we got.
I serve on the school finance committee since 2005, and I've seen that report. They don't have near as many funds as you do. So what would you be interested in only the major ones? General Electric, Water, Sewer? Because it wouldn't be 20 minutes by any means.
No, I'm just throwing out 20 minutes as an example.
I don't know that we.
Well, we could try it once, right?
I'll be honest, I think the general fund is the one we want to keep our finger on the pulse on.
Right.
So, the enterprise funds, the utility funds, other than real high-level fund balances and things like that,
Right.
I think it makes sense to focus on
Yeah,
general
Cheryl's
fund.
making a good point.
I was going to make a suggestion, which is, we basically, when it comes to property taxes, we basically get money twice a year.
Yes, we do.
Sales tax runs 2 months behind.
Yeah, sales tax.
What it's going
Sales
to
tax
be.
runs too.
But
We
what
talked-
I think that we probably can do is give an update as to where we are, expenses versus budget, actual versus budget, but also take a moment to explain if they bought all the everything that all the ammunition the police department was going to need for the whole year in the first quarter.
We
You can
already
explain
run a
that.
monthly report internally, and if you'd like, we can just pop it right in the council packet we usually do that by the 10th of the month or so. It takes a little time to close the month, and so the second meeting, we can pop that right in behind the expenditures, and it
Awesome.
shows against the budget to actual right there.
Awesome.
Great.
By line item,
So,
like this.
Right.
But again, we'd have to talk a little bit about, okay, now hold up, it's only, partway through the year, whatever.
Sure.
But-
And we do that
it's no
anyway.
big
When
deal.
you do your budget, your mid-year budget presentation, that's exactly what you do.
That report is already generated,
Yeah.
and if you want to see the general fund, that is no big deal.
Okay, and so what I would suggest is let's make that a presentation item that for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, as Rich was saying, at the beginning of the second meeting of every month. Yeah.
Sure. And to be honest, since it's going to be in the agenda packet, we'll have questions we could probably ask of you before the meeting and say, can we have clarification on this? Exactly.
That is absolutely no big deal if that would make you all feel better.
I'd
feel a lot better.
I can tell you this. This is the 7th budget session that I've sat through, And I've been watching this for a while, and there isn't a year that we've had yet where expenses didn't come in, maybe not in every department,
Well,
but where
well.
expenses as an organization didn't come in underneath what was budgeted,
Well,
and
well. Yeah.
where revenue didn't come in above what was budgeted, or
Yep.
so close that it's just not even funny. We've gotten much better at
Revenue's very close.
Very close at budgeting for that now. So
Expenditures, it has to do, so a
Yeah,
lot of it has
but
to do
yeah,
with
that's-
with FTEs and
Yeah.
churn
our
and,
city staff
Things like
does a
that.
great job of pinching pennies.
Well, and expenditures are for projects, a lot of times, and projects slide, or you have employee vacancies, but.
exactly.
And so things change. And because a budget has to be a snapshot in time, as are these, I mean, you have to eventually stop grinding and submit. So, I am conservative. Cheryl is conservative because I have been, like I said, deferring rabbits, pulling them out of hats
Uh-huh.
when we did not have the economic development we thought we were going to have. So in full absolute transparency, I did not include one penny for Kia, for Dairy Queen, or for CVS in the 2018 budget because, one, they're not up yet.
Correct.
Two, any property valuation, the appraiser snapshots that 1/1 of every year. So if Dairy Queen's built, it'll be appraised.
And it will
If
be.
Hampton Inn won't be built,
It
you
won't.
won't get anything
Yep.
until, if it's supposed to be built in 2018, you're not going to get any significant revenue until the sales tax come in on a 2-month lag, and it's not supposed to be till October, so you won't get it till
March of
January.
2019.
And
Yeah.
then it'll be 2020 before you see property tax, and we gave them an abatement that's front-loaded, so.
Yes,
So that, and,
65%.
so another rule of thumb, $1 million in sales to get you $10,000 in the general fund.
Mhm.
So it takes 10 of those to move the needle.
Yep.
So it's those things, while they're fantastic and wonderful, and we're all excited, it's going to trickle in, not jump in. And new development is the key to getting to keep the property tax revenues under the new tax lid.
Correct.
From now on, we're going to have, you have to assume flat revenues, which unless you want to keep spending down your reserves, you're going to have to find other funding sources like sales tax, like new development, that might conclude both property and sales.
Well, and which is why 5 years later, the needle's still not moved off the fact that promote economic development has been our number one priority as a governing body.
Oh, yeah. It's not a brainer.
Is there anything else I can help you with?
I'm good for now, thanks.
Anyone else?
Right now, I only have drop the placeholder for legal services and buy a police car. Do we want to do something else?
Well, I'll be honest, we need to, I think I would like to have a little bit more time to look at the budget. I really haven't had a lot of time to look at it. I know Rich and Lee, I believe, got the spreadsheets. I got my budget book yesterday. So personally, I need more time. I will say this, we need to get clarification from Ryan as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
We need to get a legal opinion on this, and I need to have him explain to me why my interpretation is not correct.
Okay.
And it needs to be sent to the entire governing body, please.
I will have him do that.
Because at this point, I am disposed right now not to vote for a budget until I have enough time to look at it. And that's just the way it is. So we need to get that clarified. And I believe we have a member of the legislature who's in the room right now who could probably, maybe give some clarification from the lawmaker's perspective, but we need a legal perspective, and I wish he were here tonight.
I'll follow up with the city attorney for you.
Thank you. I'm surprised that nobody from MVP is here, to be honest.
We had a little confusion as to whether or not this was going to be a work session, in which case he wasn't necessarily required to be here, or if it was going to be a special meeting. We fixed that this week, but
All right.
apparently it left us without legal representation for this meeting, which is the first time in my recollection.
Yeah, it is. It's the
And-
first
but
time in my
this is,
recollection.
you know,
But
this-
that's, can't do anything about it now. So
That's-
Monday, before Monday, I need something, an opinion.
I'm curious as to, do you have the state statutes?
Yes, I have all of it. Actually, I
and-
gave excerpts of the state statutes to our city clerk.
Amy, if I can get that.
And I also
after
have
meeting's
the,
over.
this is the actual KSA section. I've got it right here.
No, he's got, I have.
79-2925C, subsection B, subsection 3.
Should be.
Okay.
His is-
Okay?
Amy's got it. No, Amy's got it. I brought copies for
B3.
Yeah.
All right? And this is the actual language right there. That
I
talks
got
about-
Kansas
So-
statutes annotated, bookmarked at home.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll look it up when I get home.
She's got it.
Anybody else have anything?
Just to clarify, the clerk doesn't have that. The piece that
I
you showed on
sent
the
you the
phone.
email.
Oh, it's in the
Oh,
email.
did
I sent you an
Email?
email with those.
Can you forward it to me, please, so I can send it over to the city attorney tonight?
Sure, I will send that right now. Okay.
All right. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order? Because if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Winters, that we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Please stand in adjournment.